It's your boy Taco Phil here today. This is one thing I just noticed is one of the hotels that we stay by is our union. How cool is that? This is a local chapter. My chapter down in LA is 1700. This is 192 here. So if you're not familiar, Greyhound drivers are Amalgamated Transit Union members. Pretty neat. So it's a nice early morning here, and I just got into Oakland and decided to do a video talking about licensing. So I've talked about a lot of things, but I don't think I've talked about licensing yet. So in order to be a Greyhound driver, you have to have a Class B commercial driver's license with a passenger endorsement and an air brakes endorsement. Now, there's a process in order to getting your license, and if you don't have a license, you have to get your learner's permit with those endorsements on it, and Greyhound will give you the minimum 40 hours in order to go take your license, in order to go take your driving test, but you are responsible for paying the money and passing your own test. They will not give you any sort of written test prep. They just give you the training that you'll need to pass the driving test. So it's on you to pass the written test. Now, there's one thing I gotta warn you about, and it kind of shocked me, it was a pain in the butt for me, was when you go for your written test and you go up for your Class B commercial. Now, it may not be applicable in your state, but it's applicable in California. When you go for your test in California, you actually have to take all of your test over again. So if you have a motorcycle, if you have a regular Class C, when you go for freaking your Class B, it's considered an upgrade. So you have to take your Class C again, and you have to take your motorcycle license and any other licenses you may have over again. Yeah. So once you pass your written test, then you'll be accepted and you can start the school. Once you start the school, they're gonna put you through your paces, teach you how to do the pre-trip, teach you how to maneuver the bus, and most of your skills course covers all of the different skills that you'll need in order to pass the driving portion of the test. Now, once you get your 40 hours, you get your once you get your permit and you're ready and you do your 40 hours, Greyhound will let you use their bus to actually go and take the test. And I think you get like 3 chances to take the actual driving portion. Now, when you do the driving portion, it consists of 3 parts, and each part goes in order. So the first part is the pre-trip. The pre-trip, you actually have to do a regular pre-trip describing as much as you can. Now, the important thing about passing a pre-trip is no detail is too much detail. You want to give as much detail as possible when doing the pre-trip. I mean, what happens is you have a minimum amount of points that you have to get, and I think it's like, I think you have to get like a minimum of like 60 points. And each portion that you mention gives you points. So if you just go through a pre-trip and you don't mention everything, you could fail the pre-trip. For example, I passed the pre-trip. I passed all my tests on the first try, which was pretty awesome. But when I did the pre-trip, I went around the bus. I got to the front of the bus. I described as much as I could remember. And the lady was like, "Is that it? Are you done with your pre-trip?" Now, just be aware, if the proctor tells you or asks, "Are you done with your pre-trip?" that most likely means there's something that she felt that you missed, or she felt that you didn't give her enough. So if they tell you, "Is that all for your pre-trip?" take your time, review everything, and try to get as much detail as you can. So I went and I did it. And the lady was, I was like, yeah, I think that's it. That's all I can remember right now. And the lady was like, all right, you passed your pre-trip. He was like, but there was more information that you could have given. She asked about like the suspension, or not just the more components about the suspension. She asked about the drive linkage to show her, where's, information on the frame. So they want you to really know your bus. So be aware of that. Once you pass your pre-trip, then you move on to the skills course. Now, the skills course consists of, driving multiple skills. They'll give you certain instructions. For me, when I did my skills course, I had to do a straight in, straight out, or straight in, straight back. So I had to drive between 6 cones until the rear of the bus cleared the cones, and then go back in a straight line. Then I had to do the offset alley. So the offset alley is basically when you go straight in and then you turn the front, come back, and then come straight back. So I had to do the offset alley, and then I had to do a parallel park. So you'll practice all these things when you do your skills course. But, just take your time. They give you chances to get out and to look to make sure that you're lined up. Don't rush. Remember your reference points. Remember, to take your time. They give you typically like one chance to get out and look for free. And then anytime you get out after that, I think they take away like 2 or 3 points. So just be aware of that, especially in the parallel. When I did the parallel, I got out and looked around, and she was like, all right, that's your one free time. If you get out of that seat again, you get 2 points taken away. And I think it takes away, you can have a maximum of like 10 points or something like that. I forget exactly what it is. And I was able to pass on my first time. Once you pass your skills course, then you do the drive. And basically, they just take you, around the city. You do a couple tight turns. Now, the important things to remember is watch your reference points when you're doing your turns. Obviously, make sure you stop at all your stop signs. And this one almost tripped me up, is make sure you do the speed limit. And I don't just mean go above or below the speed limit. Is make sure that you're within the speed limit. Like, I was in the neighborhood, and the lady was like, what speed are you doing? And I was like, I'm doing 25. That was the last sign I did. And she was like, this is a 35 zone. And he goes, make sure you stay within the speed limit, within 10 miles above or below the speed limit. And she was like, you're about to drop below 25, and you're going to be below the speed limit. So I'm just giving you a warning now. If you go below the speed limit, 10 miles below the speed limit, 10 miles above the speed limit, it's an automatic fail. So make sure you watch your speed limits, pay attention to your environment. Other than that, it was just a simple driving around a couple blocks, stopping at stop signs, making sure I stopped at a railroad stopping and did my flashers and opened my window and my door and look around left and right. Now, things may be different for your state, so make sure you study for your particular state. But that's what I had to do for my test. Once I was done with my driving, the driving portion, we go back, and that's it. You pass your test, you get your license, plain and simple. Now, like I said, make sure you study for your particular state. This is what happened in California. So, the important things, when you do your written, you get your learner's permit, don't just study the commercial, do a quick review of any other licenses you may have. Like for me, the Class C was easy, but the motorcycle is always a pain. I don't know why the California motorcycle test is so freaking hard. When I took my motorcycle test, I freaking failed it twice and passed it on my third time. So I had to go, when I realized I had to do it on my commercial, I had to do it again. I went ahead and I freaking studied, my motorcycle just to make sure that I was fresh on it. Because, it's been a couple of years since I had to renew it. So make sure you study your tests, I did some focus testing, which was basically there was a test program that just asked me a bunch of the questions. But, read the book, go over it again, make sure you study for your particular state, and you guys should be fine. So Taco Phil, you guys got any questions? I'll talk to you later.